Isn't it stunning? It's more than just pretty. It's a pink diamond, priced at a hefty $70,000. My mother-in-law, who didn't even attend my own mother's funeral, seems to be thoroughly enjoying a luxurious trip with her friends, paying no attention to me. With great enthusiasm, she told me about her new pink diamond ring. It seems she was driven by a sense of competition with a friend who had recently shown off a similar ring. Proudly, she boasted about having purchased a more costly ring from the same jeweler, believing she had outshone her friend. However, the truth behind her extravagant purchase is quite troubling. It's highly unlikely she could afford such an expensive piece on her own, and it was later revealed that she had secretly taken money from my husband's safe to buy the ring. This money was vital for her care, as it was set aside for her nursing home expenses. My name is Angela. I am 44 years old and live with my husband William, who is 5 years older than me, and our daughter Lauren, who is a senior in high school. Although we're not rich, we manage a stable life. I've been working part-time at a local drugstore for more than 14 years. One of my passions is growing herbs, and I've recently been working towards a medical herb certification. Lauren and I often talk about her future aspirations, which fills us with happiness. 8 months ago, my father-in-law passed away, leading to significant changes in our modest lifestyle. According to his will, my husband William inherited the house, and the cash went to my mother-in-law, which was meant to cover her nursing home costs. Despite this, she tearfully pleaded to live with us in the house, and after much discussion, we agreed to let her stay for a year while we looked for a suitable place for her. The neighborhood where our family home is located has recently transformed into a sought-after, upscale residential area. Despite this, we are not wealthy. The land has been in our family for years. I knew my mother-in-law had a tendency to spend money without thinking, but living with her brought its harsh realities into stark relief. As my husband William left to buy groceries for dinner, my mother-in-law casually approached me on our first day living together. "Angela, could you lend me some money? I'm going out, and just in case I need a bit extra, could you give me $250 for now?" she asked, pretending it was for buying dinner. I hesitated, wondering just how many groceries she intended to buy with the amount she asked for. Against my better judgment, I handed her the money. 3 hours later, she returned home by taxi, her arms full of bags from a high-end department store, overflowing with costly deli items and sweets. "Tonight we feast. I wanted to try these side dishes. They're supposed to be delicious. And we have desserts too," she exclaimed with pride. Curious, I asked, "Mother, how much did all this cost?" She responded nonchalantly, "Well, let's see. I went a bit over because of the taxi, but I covered the extra, so it's fine." Her proud declaration left me speechless, and I realized this was just the beginning of what would become my biggest challenge. Managing finances became increasingly difficult after we moved into the family home. While my father-in-law was alive, we used to order groceries online and pay with his credit card. Learning from my initial mistake of handing her large sums of cash, I no longer trusted her with shopping and kept our wallets in a locked drawer. Dissatisfied with not having free access to money, she ceased doing any housework, focusing only on caring for the flowers at the entrance. Despite receiving a monthly allowance of $500, she quickly squandered it on clothes, beauty salon visits, and casual outings for meals or coffee with neighbors. By mid-month, she was often penniless, leaving us to cover her expenses. She typically ran out of money mid-month and would ask for more. Frustrated by her reckless spending, especially since I was trying to save for my daughter's education, I calmly explained to her the limits when she asked for extra cash for a lunch date with friends. Even William, who earns a salary, gets an allowance of $500. I can't justify giving you more than we give someone who's working. Please try to manage it better, I told her. Unhappy with my response, she retreated to her room, and I suspected she might ask William for money later. The money for her allowance was meant to support her future care in a nursing home. If we kept giving her more, it would ultimately be to her detriment. When William got home, I shared my concerns with him. "Did your mother ask you for extra money again?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes, she did, but it's hard to be strict with her. She feels lonely without her dad around, and she's always been a bit vain. I want to keep her happy, at least while she's living with us." I understood his sentiment, but pointed out, "Your kindness might not be really helping her in the long run, and it could backfire on us too." "You're right, I get it," he agreed. My mother-in-law had a habit of showing off, especially in front of her two old friends, who were mothers of my husband's classmates and lived nearby. I had first noticed this during the funeral arrangements for my father-in-law. "William, it's your father's funeral. Arrange the altar like this and get more extravagant flowers. The neighbors are coming. Don't embarrass your father," she directed. William, being the dutiful spouse, complied to a certain extent, though the costs were significantly high. Her primary aim was always to impress the neighbors. At the funeral, she only greeted the families of her two friends, seemingly focused on maintaining appearances. One day, after she returned from lunch with these friends, it became even more apparent how much she felt the need to keep up with people from a more lavish lifestyle. She returned home with a gleam in her eyes, clearly excited. Today, Doris showed me a ring worth $25,000 that her husband bought for their golden wedding anniversary. "I've never seen a ring that expensive before. It's a fantastic gift," she exclaimed. Then, with a hint of superiority and a dose of sarcasm, she turned to me and said, "You don't have such wealthy friends, do you, Angela? You'll probably never see anything like that in your lifetime." Her words were designed to belittle me. As she continued, "Angela, you're so plain. Why don't you wear some makeup? Have you ever been to an upscale lunch?" It was all about trying to make me feel inferior. I tried to brush off her comments, but her attitude toward me grew increasingly hostile, particularly after I had refused to give her more money following the settlement of my father-in-law's estate and our search for a nursing home. Around the same time, my mother's health dramatically worsened. When my sister and I hurried to the hospital, the doctor told us that she had about 4 months left to live due to advanced cancer. She was in a delicate state and could decline at any moment. My mother had occasionally mentioned feeling unwell previously, but she was a person who rarely showed any signs of vulnerability. I deeply regretted not having been more attentive to her condition. I asked my sister to stay with her while I returned to her apartment to gather some clothes and other personal items. As I packed a large bag in her bedroom, I found some cash in a drawer, likely set aside for her monthly living expenses. I decided to take the cash with me, intending to quickly shower and then head back to the hospital to be with her. I left the bag in William's upstairs room and, after getting ready, noticed that the zipper was slightly open. A wave of unease hit me as I checked inside the bag and discovered the cash was missing. Fighting the surge of anger, I went downstairs to confront my mother-in-law in her room. "Mother, may I ask you something?" I said as she was getting ready to leave. She turned to face me and asked, "How's your mother doing?" "I have plans with my friends right now." I pressed on. "The money that was in the bag in our room, you have it, don't you? That money belongs to my mother. Please return it." "I don't know what you're talking about. I never go upstairs. Are you accusing me of stealing?" She snapped back, brushing past me to head for the door. "I'm going out for a fancy French dinner with my friends tonight, so I don't need your poor excuse for a meal. Give my regards to your mother," she added with a smirk, leaving the house and leaving me in shock. Just then, Lauren, my daughter, came home and noticed my distress. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, seeing the turmoil in my eyes. "Your grandmother's money. My mother-in-law took it. I can't confront her without evidence," I confessed as tears began to naturally fall. Lauren gently stroked my back to calm me down. "That's terrible. It must have been her. I've seen her sneaking down from upstairs before. To think she would stoop to taking your grandmother's money, I can't forgive her. But how's Grandma? If you're going to the hospital, I'll come with you. Let's think of a way to deal with this," she proposed, her words buoying my spirits slightly despite the circumstances. As we walked to the car, Lauren's support lightened my heart a bit. Despite feeling sorry for my father-in-law, I realized that I needed to protect my family in my way. A few days later, however, my mother's condition suddenly worsened, adding another layer of urgency and distress to our already strained situation. This unexpected turn forced us to rally together and put family first, showing strength in the face of adversity and reevaluating our priorities and the dynamics within our home. In her final days, my mother was often lost in a daze, though there were moments when she was startlingly clear-minded. I took every opportunity to express my gratitude to her for the way she raised me, her love, her encouragement of Lauren's dreams, her support for the plans William and I had for our future, and her companionship into our old age. Though she couldn't speak much, her eyes would sometimes sparkle with understanding, and she'd nod gently as I spoke. During these emotional days, I remembered a significant conversation with my father-in-law before he passed. He had contemplated divorcing my mother-in-law due to her extravagant habits, but held back to avoid burdening William and me. He had made me promise to sell the house and move my mother-in-law into a nursing home after his passing. This was because her spending had gotten out of control once William began kindergarten, influenced by living in a wealthy area and the pressure to keep up with affluent neighbors. She seemed to have deluded herself into believing she was wealthy, perhaps spurred on by William's success at a prestigious company. Reflecting on this, I regretted not following through with his wishes sooner, which might have prevented the unfortunate incident with my mother's money. When the time came, William and Lauren were there for my mother's final moments, but it was my sister and her husband who were with her at the very end. After her passing, as we prepared for the funeral, my mother-in-law was conspicuously absent. I decided to extend one last gesture of kindness towards her by conducting a small, quiet funeral without her presence. I tried reaching her, but she didn't answer her phone, and it seemed she had stayed out all night. When she finally returned, it was with a light-hearted demeanor, untouched by the somber events. "My condolences for your loss. It must have been hard," she greeted me, seemingly oblivious to the depth of our grief. This contrast between her mood and the solemnity of our family's loss struck a dissonant chord, highlighting the differences in our perspectives and priorities. I couldn't help but notice a dazzling new jewel in her hand, a pink diamond that sparkled under the light. "Look at this beauty, isn't it gorgeous? It cost $70,000, she exclaimed with a proud smile. Surprised, I asked, "Mother, how did you manage to buy that?" "Oh, I bought it, of course. Doris introduced me to a boutique in Philadelphia, USA that you can only visit by reservation, so I went there for an overnight trip with my friends. The hotel we stayed at was lovely and the meals were divine," she replied. Her words left me dumbstruck. Here I was, mourning at my mother's funeral, and my mother-in-law was off in Philadelphia, enjoying luxury shopping with her friends. "I bought something even pricier than what Doris showed me. Feels good," she declared smugly. Struggling to grasp the situation, I asked, "But how? You don't have that kind of money. Where did you get it?" Her answer came nonchalantly. "Oh, I found it in William's room safe. My passbook was in there with exactly $70,000. Since it's in my passbook, it's my money, right?" I felt a chill run through me. Her actions, especially during such a sensitive time, were disappointing, though not entirely unexpected. It confirmed she had been sneaking around our upstairs room. The passbook was supposed to be secure in the study room safe that William now used. That safe, an old-fashioned dial type, was often left unlocked by William, who found it cumbersome to use, assuming security was sufficient since the study was locked. On the day of my mother's passing, I had left the study unlocked, suspecting she might try to sneak in and take the passbook. That $70,000 is from my father's inheritance. Do you realize what you've done? I confronted her. Unfazed, she retorted, I know it's from your father. It's my money. So what's wrong with using it? Her response was disheartening, showcasing a disregard for family ties and the emotional weight of the moment. As I faced my mother-in-law, a mixture of pity and resolve washed over me. It's indeed your money, and you are free to use it as you see fit. However, that money was designated for your old age. Since we will be moving out, it will be up to you to manage your finances independently from now on. Initially, my mother-in-law looked perplexed by my firm declaration, but as the full impact of my words sank in, her expression turned ashen. She stammered, Wait, isn't there a separate fund for the nursing home? It should be more than this amount, right? Yes, there was more originally, I explained patiently, but it has been reduced due to the inflated costs of my father-in-law's funeral and your frequent requests for additional funds from William. Feeling the need to clarify her future options, I presented her with a stack of nursing home brochures that I had gathered over several months. She flipped through them, her hands trembling slightly, a silent testament to her dawning realization of the consequences of her actions. At that moment, William and Lauren descended the stairs. I had briefed them earlier about the unfortunate discoveries in the study, prompting them to come and assess the situation. Although William had initially been skeptical that his mother could have misappropriated the funds, the evidence was undeniable, and he supported my stance. Under different circumstances, I would have meticulously arranged for my mother-in-law's care in a suitable nursing home. However, her blatant disregard for our privacy and the theft of the funds compelled me to prioritize the safety and well-being of our own family. I made it clear that her actions, entering our private space and removing money, were utterly unacceptable. The breach of trust was severe, and I resolved to sever ties with her for the foreseeable future. William, you'll continue to stay in this house, won't you? I inquired, seeking his affirmation. It's heartbreaking to consider selling a home filled with so many memories, but looking after parents is a son's responsibility. As I clung to William, seeking solace and reassurance, I decided to double-check the safe one last time. To my dismay, not only the passbook, but also the additional cash I had withdrawn for the car inspection was missing. Overwhelmed by the betrayal, I turned to William, my voice laden with shock. This is too much. I trusted her. William, his voice heavy with regret, admitted the harsh truth, struggling to articulate the emotions swirling through him. His acknowledgement of the situation marked a pivotal moment in our family dynamics, reinforcing the necessity of the tough decisions we faced. I discovered she had borrowed $15,000, but there was more at stake. My mother's money. What about the money you took that belonged to my mother? I demanded, my panic rising. Oh, I'll return that too. Then we're fine, right, Angela? You'll forgive me now, won't you? She replied, her tone rushed as she handed me the money, still evasive about the $70,000 ring until the very end. Not once did she offer an apology for the distress she caused regarding my mother's funds. I'm sorry, but I can't live with you anymore. I need to protect my own family from now on, I declared resolutely. She broke down crying, clinging to William, who was overcome with a mix of sorrow and frustration. William acted decisively amid his grief. He sold her belongings to amass a lump sum and located a nursing home that was affordable on her pension. The facility was far from our family home, far enough that I probably wouldn't see her again in my lifetime. William still receives occasional calls from the home, indicating that she has begun to settle into her new surroundings. Reflecting on everything, I regretted not arranging for her to move into a home sooner. Perhaps if we hadn't lived under the same roof, her life and ours, might have been happier. Despite everything, a part of me felt a twinge of sympathy for her after she moved out. After her departure, we looked forward to Lauren's graduation. Lauren was accepted into her university of choice and started living independently. The family home, situated in a desirable area, quickly attracted a buyer. William is now seeking a transfer to a branch near the coast. We plan to spend a few years there until retirement, searching for our final home. We hope to continue living peacefully and harmoniously as a family, finding solace in the stability and tranquility of our new life by the sea.